I said, because with you, every time I talk to you, you're always pursuing some cat based on what it is about, the things about him that make you want him. And within 90 days to 6 months, 9 months tops, you all disgruntled and you all discombobulated. Why? Because 9 months into the relationship, your needs are not being met. And the reason why your needs are not being met is because becoming a union with him was not predicated on your needs. Right. It was predicated on everything about him that you wanted. I said, if women use their needs as a measuring stick, it doesn't matter how tall, dark, or handsome he is, how big his penis is, how much money he got, or nothing. If you got a list of needs, and after you take out a certain amount of time to acquire understanding if this man can supply those needs, when you discover that he cannot, it doesn't matter what he looks like or what he got going on. You vacate that situation.
Have you ever considered what it means to be in a relationship other than the very obvious? I mean, really considered what it means, what the expectations are, what roles each person is supposed to embody. My friend David is writing a book where he dives into just that. What exactly is a relationship as opposed to a companionship? Now, that's a term I never even heard or considered. Which one are you in? A relationship or companionship? Which one are you searching for? Now, the author's views are entirely his own. Some I agree with and some I don't. But regardless of my personal opinion, this conversation is educational, thought-provoking, and very much needed. Be sure to hit that follow button and share this episode with a friend. That's how we grow. We really appreciate it. As always, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Manhood Matters. Let's get to it. Making a choice, speak less great, no sugar to cope. Black man's lens, each word a keynote. Mental storms, physical strife, hustling hard, the pulse of life, race love. And the entrepreneurs climb real talk, echoes of fire time. Experts and friends, a powerful blend, tackling issues that never end. Relationship. Welcome back to the pod.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so in conversations with you in the past, you mentioned a book that you're either are in the process of writing or it's done.
Yeah, I'm 68% in.
Okay, cool. Tell us about the book, man. What's it called, and tell us about it.
Well, the name of the book is called Who Took My Manhood and Left Me All Alone With Her.
It's a mouthful, man.
It's definitely a mouthful.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, break down this title for me, man. Tell me what's going on.
And it's one of them type of situations where, people always go straight in for the kill on the title, but it's about the systematic destruction of the black family. How the government manipulated our African-American sisters into getting the black man out of the house. One thing about me, I have a very extensive background in holistic psychology, behavioral science, social science, and mental illness. So growing up in a spiritual, metaphysical, holistic, organic, centered home and family lifestyle, I was always raised to not look at the symptom, but the cause.
Okay.
Meaning, like, if I ever met a man or a woman or a child that acted a certain kind of way, I didn't write them off on the symptom, the reaction.
You went back to find out what the reason is. I wanted to find out why this
child wasn't born like this, why this child is acting like this. Even when it comes down to relationships, I spent 9 months in the Congo, 3 months with the Pygmy tribe. And one of the things that blew me away being around this Pygmy tribe is, when you go out to these countries, especially like you smack dead in the middle of one of the most dangerous geographical jungles in the world, all the bullshit fades away. Everything that is in our society is now gone. It's not in this society. I'm like, literally. Like, for instance, right now as we speak, there's over 7,000 actively spoken languages on the planet. Now, the overwhelming majority of those 7,000 languages spoken don't have the words belief, love, or faith. What was a word before it became a word? It was a thought, and then it became an action. When I came to the realization that words were thoughts and then they became materialized as actions, then I started learning and understanding that every real word solidifies itself. And how does that real word solidify itself? Through action. If I say to you, sit, in order for you to execute the word sit, you have to take the action of sitting down. All real words are solidified by action. If I say to my woman or to a woman or to you that I care for you, in order for me to care for you, it has to be reinforced with action.
That's what you're talking about when you said the word love itself
Exactly.
doesn't have
Right, because
action behind it.
Exactly, because it's a four-letter word, a cliche, and a holiday. It actually materialized around the time the St. Valentine's Day, Cupid, the heart, and everything. People don't do no research.
So when did it get infused into the Bible then?
The word love itself has no indigenous ancient origin. So when you sit back and look at the concept of the Bible, not taken away from anything, but when you sit back and look at the whole concept of writing 40,000 years ago, putting stuff into book form, that's another evolution. We're less than 500 years removed from the continent. So nothing has been lost. Even when you go to Africa, African elders call America an infant child still suckling at his mother's breast. We are already a derailed society 248 years in. We already are in a free fall of demoralization. Facts don't even rule no more. And even looking at the relationships between the men and the women. Let's go back to slavery. There have been scenarios that have been playing out on this planet due to colonization, putting our people in positions that they was never ever supposed to be put in. A black woman was never supposed to be put in a position to be shown and proven and reinforce the understanding that her man can't protect her. Well, we don't take into consideration, we're dealing with about 400 and some change years of resentment.
Right.
And then on top of that, we find ourselves making a transition into a society that as that society grows and evolves, while at the same time simultaneously still reinforcing the notion in black women's minds that your man cannot protect you, at the same time, they're glorifying another man.
That was the whole purpose of them raping the woman in front of you.
Exactly.
To show that your man cannot protect
Exactly. Right now, as we speak, we're dealing with 3 decades. We're dealing with the collateral damage and fallout of over 3 decades of mass incarceration and single black women parented homes.
Yeah.
That in itself is a pandemic.
Yeah.
That's a societal disruption within a culture. That's almost genocide in a certain sense. Now, as things continue,
it's not almost genocide. It is.
Genocide. Exactly.
Exactly what it is.
And as things still continue to progress, look at the fact, like, for instance, it's 2025. America just so happens to be one of the few countries that does not possess a universal understanding of what a relationship or a marriage is.
All right, stop. Hang on a second.
Agree.
So I want to start from what you just said and then just go from there for me.
Okay. People don't take into consideration that America just so happens to be one of the few countries in the world that does not possess a universal understanding of what a relationship or a marriage is.
And what do you mean by that?
For instance,
Or describe it the way the rest of the world sees it and the way you see it.
okay, well, like, for instance, this is the best way I can explain it. I'll use the slavery situation. Only a fraction of people were enslaved. You got a lot of people out here think all of the continent was hit by slavery.
yeah.
It wasn't. Now, prior to slavery, 355,000 years of mental, physical, spiritual, economical growth and evolution on that continent. First colleges and universities in Africa. That's prior to slavery. Then our ancestors get illegally abducted, shackled, enslaved, and forcibly brought to the shores of this country, America. Now, when they get here, the whole entire paradigm now is changed because these people are being stripped. They've been stripped of land, language, culture, tradition. They've been stripped. Now you have them over here in this foreign territory, and you now start the whole process of reconditioning the mind. If we go to Korea, Korean men and women know what to expect from one another. Mm-hmm. Chinese men and women know what to expect from one another because these cultures around the world are hundreds of thousands of years old in their growth and evolution.
Would you describe for us what the universal understanding of marriage is?
Okay. In a nutshell, no matter where I've ever gone in the world, the inhabitants of that land know what to expect from their men. They know what to expect from their women.
Okay.
So much so to the point that even here in America, where they call us the great melting pot, this country is not integrated.
No.
It's integrated in the fact that in this geographical region of the world, we have a lot of different diverse cultures living here,
Right.
but still the overwhelming majority of cultures, they don't mix.
We went from a society that was communal, like you grew up
Exactly.
in, to everybody got to get their own, and so that was the start of that fracturing that you talk about.
Right.
I still look at, the Asian culture, the Hispanic culture. One of the reasons, in my opinion, that they do thrive is that they are still communal.
Right.
They come over here and they bring the communal aspect. And instead of just being in those little small house, they come over here, pool their money together and get a big house, and then it's comfortable for everybody.
Same playbook, divide and conquer.
Yes.
You turn around and you found a way to get the black woman to put the black man out of the house. I hate it when black men and women in fight try to compare their plights, because there ain't supposed to be any plights to compare. It's supposed to be the black plight. People don't take into consideration that even with our women, and I try to explain this to black women, you still cannot compare, not downplaying anything that has happened to black women historically and still continues to happen to this day. You still can't compare it to what black men go through. It pissed me off to the highest of festivity when I went to the World Medical Conference in Moscow, Russia in 2018. Some of the greatest minds on the planet coming out, even though they was dropping facts, it just wrecked me to my core to hear that African American women in America have had aborted more babies than the whole entire international abortion community. I sit back today in 2025 and say one of the reasons why African Americans got the highest rate of divorce, separation, and domestic violence is because the fact of this: when there is no universal understanding, your average black woman don't know what to expect from a black man unless she goes towards something negative.
Okay.
Question. What is it that they should expect? Certain principles that you think should be laid out?
Or what do you feel like? So you didn't define our race.
Okay. There has to be a universal understanding of certain things. What I mean by universal understanding, no one would ever dispute that water's wet,
Right.
that fire is hot, that we need to drink water for hydration, that we need to eat to live. These are all universal factors. When you have cultures that are hundreds of thousands of years old, they were able to give the room and space to grow and understand, grow and evolve into these universal understandings, right down to how all these different cultures deal and interact between the sexes, the genders. Now, here in America, your average black man, your average black woman, they're not even relationship or marriage orientated individuals. You may possess the desire to be in a relationship. You may possess the desire to be married. America is the most mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, and financially dysfunctional society on the planet by grand design. And African Americans, unfortunately, are the greatest inheritors of America's dysfunction. And I'll tell you why. America is so dysfunctional because American culture has very to little to no oversight, intervention, nor accountability over a period of time that it becomes internalized and normalized.
So part of what you're saying, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can get married and there's no penalty for not staying married.
No, even before that, it don't even get that close. What has escaped us as individuals is if I'm interacting with a woman, to say that I'm ready to be in a relationship, to say I want to be married, I'm saying I have succumbed to a place in my life where I am ready to positively impact and motivate another human being on a mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial level. Those are the 5 principles in which men and women deal and interact. Now, guess what? Does everybody make the football team? No. Everybody make the basketball team? No. Does everybody get to graduate from MIT? No. Does everybody get to work for NASA? No. But when you sit up here talking about what a relationship is, that's harder than any of those assignments. What exactly is a real relationship? A real relationship is when a man and woman of mutual attraction and of like minds comes together and formulates a committable bond, a union in which the man and the woman makes a mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial contribution to that union and growing it into a power couple that hopefully leads to marriage. When I sit back and look at all these indigenous societies that I've studied and visited over the years, when those kids grow up, they're raised through rites of passage. The boys come to a place where they're no longer being boys and they're acknowledged as men in the eyes of their whole society, family, and village. Same thing with the girls. And then after they become adults, young adults, they go out into a society. They have a uniformed mental, physical, and spiritual society that holds those children accountable to the teachings of the parent or parents. When here in America, we raise our children to the very best of our ability, which I did. My kids was on the straight and narrow the whole time they was under my roof. But guess what? I underestimated the power of the internet.
I underestimated the power of society
Yeah,
and its influence.
That's a huge influence.
I'm saying?
It is.
Because you got a man and a woman over here, they're coming together with the intent of wanting to be in a relationship. They try to predicate this relationship on sex and money. Too many negative influences. All these influences pertaining to relationships is things that people are trying to emulate through music, movies, reality shows. There's nothing of substance there that has laid a foundational and structural understanding of what a man's role is as a man in relation to himself, who he is to be for the woman, and if children come into place as the man, how he is to evolve into a father and the position he wants to play.
So having heard that, you're right? Because I look at society, I look at certain influences and all these different things. And even as adults, we are being coached, trained, and subjugated to all these different things that we're seeing. So what principles are you bringing in your teachings to remediate that particular situation, since men don't exactly know what they're supposed to be bringing?
We as a culture, we're left to have to fend for ourselves across the board. When you listen to us articulate, every other word out of our mouths is what we think, feel, believe, or have faith in. Now, what do all those words have in common? They're all predicated on a foundation of uncertainty.
Explain that.
I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I feel, I believe, I have faith in.
It's
All
from
four,
your perspective.
all four of them are predicated on. No, I'm not giving a perspective. That's a fact.
Well, you don't know, right? No. What I'm saying is that they're coming from your perspective of truly not knowing.
Right.
So you don't know for certain. So then this is how you feel about it versus.
No,
I
I'm
know
actually
this.
talking about in the word of literary action, reaction, cause, and effect.
He's saying when people first start talking, one of the things that they
Say
start
is,
with is
I think this, I feel that, I have faith in this. That's what their lead is. See, when I go outside the United States, life is not predicated on what you think, feel, believe, or have faith in. Life out there is predicated on what you know, what you don't know, what you can do, and what you can manifest. Because at the end of the day, you can't do what you don't know. A little boy come to my house and say, is IJ home? And I say, I believe he's down at the playground. That means I am uncertain to his whereabouts. The word believe is rumors, hearsay, conjecture, not facts. If you look at the word knowledge, the first word in knowledge is know. Not N-O, but K-N-O-W, a literary marker and indication that those who have acquired knowledge know. So when you sit back and look at people who articulate on a consistent and constant basis the whole lifespan, and I think, I feel, I believe, I have faith in, when you sit down and have a conversation with them and you ask them what it is that they actually and factually know, can do, and manifest, you get crickets. And one of the things that I notice is this. What reinforces is one thing that reinforces uncertainty, and that's fear. So when you sit back and look at our people over the past 248 years, and you see this lack of unity, you see this lack of mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial growth and evolution, how are we supposed to grow and evolve like everybody else when you occupy in a consistent and constant state of uncertainty and fear? Right. But it's very easy to instill fear in a person that doesn't know. Correct. If you know something, check it out. Check it out. This. Say he had a big dog. You walk in here. You know that dog don't bite.
Right.
You don't fear it. Mm-mm. I walk in behind you. I see the dog. I have no knowledge that dog don't bark. But don't bite. Now I got fear. Right. You don't have it because you have the knowledge of knowing the dog don't bite. And it's the same thing out within our society. The more a person learns, one of the things that has empowered me as a man of color is my ability to learn, grow, and evolve. And it's the same thing what's going on with these relationships. I'm sitting up here asking couples that are trying to come together questions that nobody has ever even asked them before. I'll sit there and I'll interview the woman by herself, man by herself, both together. And I ask the woman, let me ask you a question. How were you raised? Have you actually and factually been raised to be anybody's husband? Have you been raised to be anybody's mother?
So I got a theory on that, right? So this is my second marriage, right? Me and my wife have been together total 20 years. We were celebrating our 18th year of marriage next month. So intentionally, right, I started to, after my first marriage, just going back through my history, my dad's been married 5 times. My mom's been married 3.
You said 5 times?
My dad was married 5 times.
Jeez.
My dad passed at 97. During my bachelor party of my first marriage, my brother was like, Dad, why don't you tell him what it's like to be successful or have a successful marriage. And my dad looked at my brother like he was crazy. He was like, I can't tell him how to be successful. He's like, I was married 5 times. I can't tell him how to be. He said, I can't tell him how to keep her. I can tell him how to get rid of her. And everybody in the car just started laughing, right? And so, I broke the ice. I was like, you know what, Dad? I said, you're a lucky old man. He was like, why? Why you say that? I said, because you were married 5 times. He said, well, why would that make me lucky? He was perplexed. I said, because you found 5 women that you actually loved enough to marry. I can't even find 5 I like.
Exactly.
And the look on his face, I'm telling you, he laughed at it. But I was dead serious. Still to this day, I can't tell you of 5 women that I would have loved or thought enough of to marry besides the 2 that I married. And the first one, I wouldn't call it quote unquote a mistake, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't like the most amicable. What I'm saying is not like most situations where it was a disharmonious breakup, right? It just, circumstances just took us apart.
And that's why I'm hoping that this book, Who Took My Manhood and Left Me All Alone with Her.
Tell us about the book first.
Well, like I said, the book basically gives it puts things in perspective and gives people something to sit with.
Okay.
When you're in survival mode 24/7, 365, it's just reactionary. Then on top of it, you live in a village-less society. There's no one speaking strength to power.
So I want to go back to my point in telling y'all that story. The point in this is my second marriage. With my second wife, her parents were married 30 years. My first wife, her parents were like mine. So we were both from homes where we never saw a successful marriage. And I think, I feel like the reason why me and my wife are successful is because she came from a household where her parents were married for a long time.
The book to me is so important because it gives generations time to sit with it all. This whole work, Who Took My Manhood and Left Me All Alone with Her, that's exactly where we are. You got a lot of broken men now that are in relationships. He's now left alone with the woman. The woman, people don't take...
Wait a minute, so who's left alone with the woman?
The man, like right now, look at how many, as time progressed through our culture, this is what I've seen. I see sisters that got the degrees. The sister's pretty. She got a nice body. She's gainfully employed. She's got a house or apartment, a car, some material trimmings. She's got a bank account, savings account, 401k. She got all that. My whole entire life, I've seen good girls with bad boys.
Yeah.
The girl is out there going to Spelman College, this, that, and third. But her boyfriend, he in them streets. He's a dope boy. They coupled up.
Right.
But his car is in her name. Going through that mass incarceration, coming out of that mass incarceration. If you needed to find a black man, he was always entrenched underneath a black woman. And even now in 2025, look how they didn't broke that up. Yeah. I see brothers now coming home from jail. They don't have no woman to go slide up under now. The drugs is pharmaceutical now. The cars, you can't steal them. Hard to get your hands on a gun. Some people's families have passed away. You got men out here on these streets, they out here fending for themselves.
Well, we don't even have the number of children that we used to have either.
No.
So that kind of forced the family dynamic together because you had to have some help in raising your kids.
Right.
Also, you had the one-parent household where one parent would work and one parent would be at home raising the kids. Now, the way the economic system is, it forces both parents to work.
But now 43% of black women don't even want kids.
Right. Because of the 43%. Fact that they don't have time. They working.
They want a career and a body.
Right. It ain't even the music videos no more. It's just the fact that I can go on Instagram and this person is got a Brazilian butt lift, or she's got breast, or everything is about looks.
But look at how our women have become totally and virtually disconnect from the reason.
It goes back to even when
what I'm saying
in the 30s,
is
40s, and 50s where they were seeing these white women and they went from a natural hair to
but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about how can in only 248 years, how can any black woman mentally detached from the understanding of why black men are in the mental, physical, spiritual, and financial situation they're in?
Question. So one of the principles that you touched on in the book is taking the men and their power away. What's another principle and what's a positive outlook that you have on the book?
The economic side of it. No one has gone above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that black men were properly educated. No one has gone above and beyond to make sure that there was a transition from a boy to a man, and what it means to be a man, and how you will be held accountable as a man. See, what makes a teacher is that a teacher can assess a student and be clear in that teacher's mind of what that student knows, what that student does not know, what that student needs to know in real time, you know what I'm saying, and how to prioritize what that student needs to know. I investigated 217 grassroots organizations when I came to Georgia in 2016, and I was disappointed when only 7 of them was really doing the work. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of individuals out here clout chasing. You have a lot of individuals out here putting themselves in positions. But see, the thing about it is, I sit back and I look at the fundamentals. As soon as I encounter a man, a young man or a young woman, the 3 phases of life pop up in my head. The 3 phases of life is self-identity, self-empowerment, and the longest running phase of a being's life, self-mastery. We have so many good kids out here, girls and boys, but they don't have no foundation, no structure, no agenda. See, what I've learned, what breaks a person out of survival mode goes bye-bye once they acquire an agenda. Mm-hmm. When I started teaching,
have a purpose.
Right. When I started teaching men and women about the 5-point principle lifestyle, I live a 5-point principle lifestyle. The 5-point principle lifestyle is daily, cognizant, mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial growth and evolution. Because I have that agenda, that's my routine every day. I have patterns, what my mental is. I got certain books that I read, certain audible books that I read, state of meditation and proper prayer. Me, myself, one of the reasons why I'm single right now is because, again, everything is so twisted. A lot of women say they want to be in a relationship, but how it figuratively plays out, it's really, you're looking for companionship, because a relationship is too much work. When I say to people that a real relationship is when a man and woman of mutual attraction and of like minds comes together and formulates a committable bond, a union in which the man and the woman makes a mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial contribution to that union and growing it into a power couple that leads to marriage, they sit there looking at me like my head just split open.
That's a great description.
Thank you.
But that's part
really
of the
good.
50%. Why 50% of them need to divorce, because they only might get to the physical. They hardly ever get to the mental.
Well, not just that, but I think that
They got
what
physical
he's
and financial.
I think what he's hit on that I think is impactful is you want something, right?
Right.
Cool. What is it?
Exactly.
Like, you know the name of it, you heard it, but what is it? Because if you can't describe it, then are you sure you want it? Now, if I prescribe it to you, which is what you're doing, it's like, well, look, you don't have your own description. And maybe they do, right? Not everyone has the same description you do, but some people might, and it could be a profound, a very powerful one. But most people don't, because they never really think about it.
So do me a favor. Mm-hmm. I want you to break down the difference between companionship and a relationship,
right,
to give people a foundation on the difference between the two.
Right. Now, how I've seen companionship play out in the United States, here you got a brother and sister, maybe they in their late 40s. She didn't work hard, sacrificed, and invested wisely. Now they changing gears. She's got her 401. Okay, he got his, and they're seeking exactly that, companionship. Someone to spend some quality time, give some quality attention to, get out here and travel, their money situation is set. They got their retirements and all that kind of stuff. That's all set. The only thing that's missing is a companion. So a companion for what purpose?
Not do this shit alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A companion to spend time with, to travel, to have someone to be with. Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk about a relationship, that's still work. We're still building. Now you might have a man or a woman who just ain't where they want to be. They still got student loans on the table. Now we got to come together and lay the foundation and structure that's going to help us to grow and evolve in our time together, as well as take these student loans down, mm-hmm, improve our mental health, maintain our physical health, work out, exercise. See, that goes back to that universal understanding. If everybody knew that a relationship was all about mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial growth and evolution, if you grew up with that understanding and a woman goes out and she meets a man, and when she meets the man, that's all he's talking about. Now she know I got the right man.
So I got a theory on some of what you're saying. So for me, if I ever had to get married again for whatever reason, I know I'm not looking for a relationship.
Right.
Because you're right, it's too much work. The biggest thing that I think people get into when they're dating is they always think that they have to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
And you can be cool with companionship. And a lot of people now are developing that, or starting to figure that out. And that's why I think a lot of people aren't getting married. And then when they go from, let's say, for example, they dated somebody for 5 years, but everybody pressures them into marriage. And then the marriage falls apart because they were fine as companions, but they weren't set up to have a relationship.
Right, but
it's different.
but then again, it's also going back to words and words being energetic. You saying that brings my uncle to mind. My uncle was with one young lady for 3 years. Everything was fine. I mean, literally fine. He's a cool dude. They got married. They couldn't stay married 24 months. He turned around and got with another young lady.
So what changed?
Check it out. He got with another young lady. They was together for 5 years. Only thing that was missing was a ring on the finger. It's just something about
a commitment. That's what it's.
No, but see, the thing about it is, it's almost like
He's allergic to metal.
no, but it happened 3 times. He got with 3 different women, and all 3 of those relationships ended upon marriage. But now he's in the 4th relationship.
Okay.
Now him and this girl been together 30-some years.
Because he didn't get married.
Yeah. If a man and woman commit to one another, living under the same roof with one another, they paying bills, they procreating, that's marriage.
Do you feel that, based on what you just said, that marriage itself happens to be an external contract, whereas if you do it without the marriage, it's an internal contract between me and you. So we could last 30 years and be perfectly fine. But the second someone else,
Puts
the government, society puts a restraint on it or puts rules upon it, it falls apart because you're not built to do that.
Right, because now here it comes. He has his life set up as a profit, nonprofit, and private family estate trust. Her name is on the roster. In the event something happens to him, she's taken care of.
So it's not a cop out to say, like I don't want her to get my stuff or whatever.
It just puts things in natural order and perspective without the outside interferences. You got a lot of people out here, they have pressure and anxiety when it comes down to marriage, because if this doesn't work out under the umbrella of this form of marriage, this woman can take me for everything I got, or at least get half.
But see, the thing that people don't understand about marriage, and I've said this before on the podcast, marriage is a partnership.
It is. And to a certain extent.
In any partnership is like a business relationship. If you go into business with somebody, the minute we disagree and we want to go our separate ways, it's similar to a marriage. Is we got to figure out whose assets, what part are you taking, what part am I taking before we dissolve. And if people looked at marriage the same way, they would be more selective on who they went into a partnership with.
Well, that's the whole thing. But you just hit the situation on the head. See, the thing about it is, people just throwing shit up against the wall to wait to see what sticks. Because
they are involved with their emotions and love.
There's no foundation, structure, or agenda connected to their wants, needs, and desires. Even look at the power of words. It's a world of difference between the mentality of a woman who sees a man as a want versus a woman who sees a man as a need.
Yes.
Like, for instance, I just told one of my homegirls.
That's powerful. Say that one again.
In their needs.
A woman who sees a man as a want. Yeah,
it's a world of difference between a woman who sees a man as a want than a need.
Correct.
I'm saying, like, for instance, one of my homegirls, she's beautiful sister, coming apart at the seams the other night because she don't understand why these relationships ain't working out. I said, the reason why your relationships are not working out is because you pursue a man as a want. She said, well, yeah, he is a want. I said, no, he's not. I said, God doesn't make mistakes. A man and a woman are the opposite halves of the same whole. We need each other. A man and a woman need to be on the same list with water, air, and food. I said, because with you, every time I talk to you, you're always pursuing some cat based on what it is about, the things about him that make you want him. And then you end up getting in a relationship with this dude, and within 90 days to 6 months, 9 months tops, you all disgruntled, and you all upset, and you all discombobulated. Why? Because 9 months into the relationship, your needs are not being met. And the reason why your needs are not being met is because becoming a union with him was not predicated on your needs. Right. It was predicated on everything about him that you wanted. Right. I said, if women use their needs as a measuring stick, it doesn't matter how tall, dark, or handsome he is, how big his penis is, how much money he got, or nothing. If you got a list of needs, and after you take out a certain amount of time to acquire understanding if this man can supply those needs, when you discover that he cannot, it doesn't matter what he looks like or what he got going on. You vacate that situation.
David, do you think that, especially in today's norm, climate, etc., with women being more self-sufficient, etc. Do you think that there is a part of them that doesn't allow them to say, I need this or I need this person? You know what I mean? Because what I'm saying is, look, I could want him, but if I need him, it means I'm giving up a part of myself. And they're afraid.
Needy.
Well, yeah, not just that, but they're afraid of becoming dependent on this person or even vulnerable in that sense. Because if that person changes their mind, because they evolve in different ways, right? And they go their ways or whatever it is, then they feel that there's a part of them that's destroyed. Do you think that's why they are reluctant to give up that part of them, to say that they need a man rather than they want a man?
Well, that's a part of it, but also you got to understand something. You have black women who automatically feel that they are superior to a black man that they have more education than. To be educated means you went to an institution or a college and you walk around with half a head of theory and you don't know if the theories that you have learned are even real until you apply them and witness their resolve.
And most people won't.
Exactly. Now, when it comes down to knowledge, that means you have acquired the understanding, you have applied that understanding, you have witnessed its resolve over and over enough to know that it works. We now live in a time where women see men with a certain level of disrespect and disdain.
So I want to clarify that, because this has been my point, and every time I bring it up to a black woman, it's like a light bulb goes on in their head. I said I've met white women, Asian women, Hispanic women. I never hear a Hispanic, white, or Asian woman say, "I don't need a man."
Exactly.
That is coined by our culture.
African American women are the first race of women on the planet to ever run that campaign so widespread that it's globally known. Like right now here in the United States, there's over 800 private colonies. I know about these colonies because I see these people come into these different hospitals and different clinics out there getting medical attention. I mean, coming in there with 3 and 4 wives and they got a whole bushel of children. People have no understanding what's going on here. It's funny to me that even right here in Georgia, there are 16 white men who went down to South Africa and came back with 16 South African girls. But you know what they did? They went out and they created an organization. They bought a piece of property and they built a community like this on that property. And those men, late 40s, early 50s, got money, been working hard, sacrificing, wanted to procreate their legacy. And they turned around and went to South Africa and got themselves some wives and came back over here. See, a lot of women don't understand the man is the franchise. The man has the last name, he has the Y chromosome, he has X chromosome. The woman's supposed to come into this union as being a helpmate to lay the foundation and structure of this dynasty with offspring, procreation.
Is that the premise of what you're writing about and what you're teaching?
Well, it's one of them type of things is I'm trying to, as most delicately as possible, try to bring things back into perspective.
Into balance. But can you see how the way that's phrased would not be potentially well received?
I understand that. But see, the thing about it is what I also understand, though, I don't jump through hoops anymore.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, Red Fox, Dick Gregory was one of my mentors. Them people are unapologetic. They say what they want to say. Same thing with Louis Farrakhan. People say what they say. No matter who, I can get anything from anybody. I take the meat and I spit out the bones. Right now we live in this society because people are not taking into perspective how people are being cellularly victimized. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have all this hypersensitivity. You can't have a conversation without somebody's feelings getting hurt. See, we are in an agitated society, but it's very hard to navigate your daily life if you're not in the know.
So let me ask you a question. So where did you develop your theory for, I guess, pecking order for men and women?
Okay, well,
purpose?
In Africa, there's 36 African indigenous spiritual systems that make up the whole global spiritual pantheon, the whole body. In Nigeria, they have something called Ifa. There's something called the 256 Odu Ifa. We're going to call each one of those 256 Odus an encyclopedia. Okay. Each one of them 256 is a encyclopedia. Now, each one of the 256 Odus are about 1,500 telephone books thick.
Each one of them?
Each one is about 1,500 telephone books. Ifa in its written form is 40,000 years old.
So how do you get through that much information?
You can't. And let me tell you how God don't make no mistakes. The reason why you don't get through that much is because everyone born into Ifa receives a sign. Receives an Odu. Just like you got a birthmark, you're born under a certain Odu. One of those 256 Odus was pulled on your birth. And then you are signed
certain aspects of your own Odu to use that information to lay the foundation and structure of your life mentally, physically, and spiritually.
And to be clear, these Odus are books?
They're writings. The first Odu is Egiope.
Okay.
So Egiope they expounded on Egiope. They say you can live 1,000 lifetimes and still can't read all Egiope.
Yeah, I mean,
You know
not if it's 1,500 phone books.
No, but it's 40,000 years of writing. But crazy thing is you got 4 million human existent years on the planet, right? Before the 40,000 years, if we lived in an oral society where individuals were so brilliant, they used to work around with this information in their head. We live in a society that benefits off of the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, the ugly, and the different. Right. They got a way that they're going to profit from any situation or circumstance. Right. When it comes down to these relationships, it's the same thing. These women are out here running recluse, as well as the men are out here running recluse, operating at their lowest vibration, because who's teaching them? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. I see her, I want to be with her. The only thing he knows is, okay, she likes sex and money, I like sex and money. Outside of sex and money, I'm going to try to inflict my will on her, and she's going to try to inflict her will on me, and then it turns into this whole infighting type situation. Versus right now, even right here in America, you ain't got to go outside the country. I got people telling me that the reason why I'm still single is because I'm waiting on a black woman. I had somebody tell me that recently.
What is the reason you are still single?
Well,
I think that's a stupid question, by the way. I'm asking it knowing full well it's a stupid question, because I hate when I hear that, because I've heard women say, this guy is this and that, still single. You know, knowing all this full well, I'm just going to ask you, if I may, why are you single?
It's very sad and disheartening that if I, right now in this moment, decided to date outside my race, I can get in a relationship like that. Mm-hmm. Problem is, I know I'm a good judge of character, because from 2016 to present, anytime I'm moved to actually approach a woman in public, they always married.
Mm-hmm. So you approached one that obviously
she's a prize. It doesn't happen a lot.
Value in, basically.
She's a prize,
right? It doesn't happen a lot, but it has more than happened enough to substantiate that I am clear in my understanding of what a black woman is, of quality and substance, caliber, good character, family, and career. Because every time I approach one, oh, thank you, they all flattered, I'm married.
She wasn't wearing the ring? Or you didn't look that?
It was really, a lot of times I wasn't looking. I just wasn't looking.
Yeah, but would you date outside of your race?
I'm tangling with that now. But now what's going on, which is really ironic that y'all brought this up, I got a little tour coming up soon. So I'm going to go down to, like, one of my professors, one of my mentors, this guy's like a father to me. He told me straight up and down recently, he said, look, man, he said, do like you wasn't meant to be by yourself. He said, I'm supposed to be going to South Africa in July.
You going to get yourself 16 wives?
No.
So are you at that stage in your life where you cool with companionship? Or are you legitimately looking to be married?
Well, no, I'm actually looking to be. I'm actually looking to be in a relationship.
To be in a relationship.
But see, the thing about it is, you got to understand where you're at. If I'm gonna stay here in America, it's gonna be companionship. I meet more women here in America that are companionship oriented than relationship oriented.
Okay, I understand.
And abroad, I meet more women who are relationship oriented than companionship oriented.
All right.
I get the difference. We all agree. I think all three of us, especially when Leon a little earlier said, like if you were to get to do it all over again, he'd look for companionship. I would actually look for a relationship.
Yeah.
Because I get both. Because in the relationship, you also have a companionship.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You do get both.
And I feel that the companionship itself is very volatile in the sense that they're there for a reason, and I better not get sick. That one's not going to wipe your ass. It's a companionship.
Yeah. So you know what I just went through.
Of course.
The health challenge.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so you have that relationship.
Yeah.
You're talking about in the future, but I'm saying, like, for me, if I'm gonna just like, lock it down with someone, it needs to be a relationship every single time, or I don't need it. I'm cool with the casual encounters and just moving on with my world and not have the false sense of security with you when you're not really here. There's always this nagging thing where I feel like at the first sign of trouble, you're gone.
Let me give you an example. One of my best friends was in love with his children's mother. Remember when I told you when you care more about somebody than they care about you, it equals resentment? Mm-hmm. Well, she resented him for no matter how disrespectful she was,
No matter what she did, she resented him for always seeing the better side of her and still wanting to pursue that, right?
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
So she got to a point that she literally tried to destroy him.
He's like, what else would I have to do?
Exactly. She literally tried to destroy him. So he got to a place with me. I was like, bro, come on now. Fat lady and son, bro. It's getting violent. It's getting really toxic. So he came out, right? Mm-hmm. So I needed to...
Came out of the relationship.
Yeah,
You gotta be careful with you coming out.
He came out of the relationship.
Came out of the relationship.
Yeah, he came out of the relationship. And he's a brilliant brother, you know what I'm saying? So this is what I did. I said, I got to go travel. I want you to come with me. Took that brother to Uganda, and he met a Ugandan sister, bro. And it was this beautiful sister, bro. I even saw her. She was just out there, bro. The sun was shining and all the colors and her pretty white teeth. And he just kept looking at her. She kept blushing and smiling, blushing and smiling. And it happened just that simple.
Yeah.
That brother, they got together. He was going back and forth over there, spending time with her. He put her through nursing school. After she came out of nursing school, they turned around and started some kind of nursing home type situation, some kind of business with nursing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They've been together now like 18 years.
That's beautiful.
That is awesome.
And no hiccups.
So I got to go back on one thing that I kind of want to challenge you a little bit, David, because it was a lot to pull from. I'm going to say 80% of it felt not preachy, not in a bad sense, but whether it's educational, on a soapbox or whatever it is, where there was a whole lot of love for the Black community being talked about. You want to grab everyone by the collar, it feels like, and wake everybody up and shake them up and go, wake up, right?
Exactly.
You talked about the community, you talked about the village, you talked about relationships and all these different things. But when I asked you a second ago, would you date outside your race? I expected a resounding hell no. It seems like you're open to it. Explain that one.
Well, it depends. Let me expound on it. Could I see myself, when you say dating outside your race, let's put it into perspective. I can go out there and date other melanated races.
Okay, when I say outside your race, I don't mean outside of the nationality. When I think of Black, I think of Black everywhere on the whole earth.
Okay, well, no.
Right?
No,
Jamaican, Haitian, Ethiopian.
No.
You know.
I can't date outside my race. That's why I haven't. That's why I'm 57 and single.
Okay.
Because I can't. And the reason why I can't is too many things play back. I used to be involved in sporting programs where I see the overwhelming majority of these sporting prospects coming up and get completely burned to the ground and destroyed before they can even clear college, dealing with them. You know what I'm saying?
Woman, yeah.
And then on top of that, I come from a very enriched culture family. The matriarchs of my family, man, they poured into me. You know what I'm saying? They really dotted I's, crossed T's, connected dots, and really gave my life foundation, structure, and purpose.
My last question for you is, so we're doing a podcast on relationships, and you gave them 5 principles that they can follow in determining whether they're looking for a relationship versus companionship. What other suggestion or tool would you give generations that are coming behind, that are just starting to date, that are just starting to look at companionship versus relationship?
Well, I would tell any person to first self-reflect. If you don't possess the ability or the drive or the desire to positively impact your significant other in a constant and committed effort to see them, help them to become a better person mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, and financially, you're a companion. You're not a relationship person.
I like that.
Any individual who has succumbed to that deep, intimate, mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial side of themselves, to the point that they have put in the work and they see that their life is not perfect, but their life is functional and it's progressive in those 5 areas, and now you're ready to commit to someone, you are definitely a relationship-orientated individual.
So what's the makeup of your children? You got 5, you said.
Yeah, 3 boys, 2 girls.
What do you tell your daughters?
Well, my daughters, I'm hard on the girls. It's very easy to throw a defense to a society's offense. I told them, any man who comes your way that's, just structured in sex, money, and trying to control you or inflict his will or ideology, way of thinking on you, that's not the man for you. Men and women deal and interact on 5 principles on a consistent and constant basis, consciously or subconsciously. Any individual who does not operate with a life's agenda that operates within the growth and progression of those 5 things are operating in a mental state of survival. You don't want to deal with people who are out here surviving. You want to deal with individuals who are living. And in order to live, one must grow and one must be progressive. And in the 5 areas in which we as individuals deal and interact is that mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, and financial. And I told him straight up and down, it doesn't start when you get into a relationship. You have to start dotting I's, crossing T's on doing the work for yourself. Are you rational or irrational? Are you strong or weak? Ask yourself, do you have common sense or do you not have common sense? See, one of the biggest issues I've seen in America is the whole concept of fake it till you make it, and people not being able to be honest with themselves. Look, you know enough to think that you're right, but you just don't know enough to know that you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't live in that realm no more. That lane of critical and constructive thinking, that lane of constructive criticism, it's not like that no more. So many people, when you speak against anything, they think it's like a personal attack. They don't see it as a growing moment.
When's the book coming out?
Hopefully September.
Okay, September this year, 2025.
Yeah, I really need to, I don't know if you could help or not, but I need to really tap into like the graphic artist community. I did a lot of research recently because I'm at the place I'm working on the cover of the book. And I noticed by looking at a lot of the New York Times bestsellers, statement books got words, not pictures. So that whole who took my manhood and left me all alone with her, that's like a statement. You know what I'm saying?
That's a hell of a statement. It's a question, but it's a hell of a statement.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? But it would be on a book in written form. That would not be something that you put a graphic. So 27 different publishing companies came my way. And it really didn't do anything but upset me. For people to sit there very cool, calm, and collectively and tell you they want 78% of your royalties.
For the book?
I mean, the lowest amount of royalties somebody asked for was 40%.
Why don't you self-publish?
That's exactly where I'm at now.
Okay. For people who want to reach out and work with you, how will they find you?
Well, the best way to find me right now will be by way of email. My email address is the3ZUPAN@PROTON.me. That's proton.
Okay.
.me. That's the best way to get in contact with me.
Gotcha. Well, I have that. I'll make sure it's added to the show notes.
Yeah.
So anybody listening can just go ahead and check it out. So if someone, maybe like a graphic designer or someone else wants to reach out, or someone who just wants to challenge you. Right. Earlier today, you volunteered to finish out the show and do the outro.
Yeah, I did.
And because you sound just a little bit to me like Denzel, you can just go ahead and read that. I texted it to you already.
Okay, everybody out there, please support us by following the show. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week when we share conversations surrounding real issues we deal with every day. Manhood matters. We're out.
I'll take your bando, Denzel, so you even drive. You just ready.